Ellen White was in a vision when something made her cry. But they weren't tears of sadness. They were tears of relief. Of hope. Of gratitude. Why? Because God was showing her something simple. Something that any Adventist family can do. Something that doesn't require you to be a pastor, doesn't require you to be an elder, doesn't require you to be perfect. She saw ordinary families, working fathers, tired mothers, imperfect children, doing 7 simple things on the Sabbath. And those 7 things were sealing those families for eternity. Ellen White cried with relief because she realized, it's not complicated. It's not impossible. It's not just for the super saints. It's for you. For your family. For today. And when she saw these families entering the kingdom together, when she saw the seal of God shining on the foreheads of each member, when she saw that none were lost, she cried with gratitude. Stay until the end of this video. Because if you apply these 7 simple things next Saturday, your family can be sealed forever. Have you ever felt unable to protect your family spiritually? Have you ever thought, I'm not a pastor, I'm not a theologian, I'm not eloquent, how am I going to prepare my family for the end? Have you ever looked at your children and felt afraid that you won't be able to take them to heaven? If you've ever felt this way, then this message is for you. Because Ellen White saw something in a vision that changed everything. She saw that God is not asking you to be extraordinary. He is asking you to be faithful in the simple things. And the Sabbath, that day God set apart as special, is the tool He gave you to seal your family. Ellen White wrote, "The Sabbath will be the great test of loyalty, for it is the point of truth especially controverted. When the final test comes upon men, the line will be drawn between those who serve God and those who do not." The Great Controversy, Chapter 38, page 605. Do you understand? The Sabbath is not just a day of rest. The Sabbath is the final test. It is the seal. But here's what made Ellen White cry with relief. She saw that God did not make this test complicated. He made it simple. Accessible. Practical. She saw families who did not have much theological knowledge, but did 7 simple things on the Sabbath. And these families were being sealed. And she wrote with hope, Sabbath observance is a sign of distinction between those who serve God and those who do not. It is a guarantee of His faithfulness to us. Testimonies for the Church, Volume 6, Chapter 12, page 350. In this video, I'm going to reveal to you the 7 simple things that Ellen White saw in vision. Things that any family can do. Things that don't require perfection. Things that seal. And I guarantee you, when you finish watching this video, you will cry with relief too. Why? Because you will realize that protecting your family spiritually is not impossible. It's simple. You will discover why the Sabbath opening service is the first line of spiritual defense. How disconnecting from the world seals your family. The power of family praise on the Sabbath. And much more. So pay close attention. Because next Sabbath could be the day your family begins to be sealed for eternity. Now, let's get started. The first simple thing every Adventist needs to do to seal their family is, welcome the Sabbath with an opening service, at sunset on Friday. And that is the foundation of everything. Ellen White had a specific vision about families who welcomed the Sabbath versus families who did not. And the difference was shocking. Families who welcomed the Sabbath. They entered the Sabbath in peace. They had visible angelic protection over their home. The children looked forward to the Sabbath with anticipation. The home became a sanctuary. Families who did not keep the Sabbath. They entered the Sabbath rushing, stressed. Satan had access to the home throughout the Sabbath. The children saw the Sabbath as a boring obligation. The home remained ordinary, secular. Ellen White wrote urgently about this. As sunset approaches on Friday, family members should gather to read God's Word, sing, and pray. In this way, the Sabbath should be welcomed with songs of praise. Testimonies for the Church, Volume 6, Chapter 12, page 356. But here is what made Ellen White cry with relief. She saw that this worship does not have to be long. It does not have to be theologically profound. It does not have to be perfect. It can be simple. It can be short. It can be with children running around and babies crying. What matters is not the form. It is the intention. It is the act of stopping and saying, God, the Sabbath has begun. We consecrate our home and family to you. Let me show you what happens spiritually when you receive the Sabbath. Angels are activated for protection. Ellen White saw this literally. When the Sabbath begins, we must watch, like sentinels, our feet lest they tread on forbidden ground. And we must watch our children to see what they are doing. Testimonies for the Church, Volume 6, Chapter 12, page 357. Do you see? When you formally receive the Sabbath, angels take up a position of guard over your home. This is not theory. It is spiritual reality. A dividing line is drawn. The moment the sun sets on Friday and you gather your family, an invisible but real line is drawn around your home. On one side, the secular world, Satan, temptations. On the other side, holiness, God's presence, protection. Ellen White saw this. The Sabbath should be received as an honored visitor. The divine presence should be acknowledged by the assembled family. The Adventist Home, Chapter 53, page 518. Your children learn reverence. Here is something powerful that Ellen White saw. Children who grow up seeing their parents welcome the Sabbath with reverence, develop a deep Adventist identity. They don't keep the Sabbath because they are obligated to. They keep it because the Sabbath is special. Make the Sabbath a delight, that your children may receive it with gladness. Make it the happiest day of the week. The Adventist Home, Chapter 53, page 521. So here's what you need to do next Sabbath. Step 1, prepare ahead of time, simplicity is key. 15 minutes before sunset, turn off TV, cell phones, work. Gather all family members, even if someone resists. Light a candle or dim the lights, creates a sacred atmosphere. Step 2, simple worship structure, 10 to 15 minutes maximum. Opening song, one hymn that the whole family knows. Suggestion, Holy Sabbath, oh. What glory, I want to be closer. Short Bible reading, choose a text about the Sabbath. Exodus 20 verses 8 to 11. Isaiah 58 verses 13 to 14. Luke 4 verse 16. Family declaration, all together, the Sabbath has begun. We consecrate our home and family to God. May His presence dwell with us for the next 24 hours. Prayer, Father or Mother, simple. Give thanks for another Sabbath. Ask for angelic protection. Consecrate each family member. Ask for blessings on the holy day. Family hug, everyone hugs each other. Step 3, consistency, more important than perfection. Ellen White saw that families who did this every Sabbath, even if imperfectly, were sealed. Families who did it, when they had time or when they felt inspired, did not have the same seal. Unless the family is completely converted, unless the parents represent Christ in character and in the life of the home, their children will not receive the necessary preparation. The Adventist Home, Chapter 44, page 315. Step 4, involve the children. Let a child choose the hymn. Let another light the candle, with supervision. Let the children pray too, even if it's just, "Thank you, Jesus, for the Sabbath." Amen. Ellen White saw that when children participate, they become owners of the Sabbath, not just observers. And here is the promise that Ellen White saw and that made her cry with relief. Families who receive the Sabbath in this way have the presence of Christ as an invisible but real guest. Angels of God dwell in that home. The peace of heaven fills every room. The Adventist Home, Chapter 53, page 519. Do you want this promise? Do you want angels dwelling in your home all 24 hours of the Sabbath? Then start simple. Start at the next sunset. Gather your family. Sing a hymn. Read a verse. Pray for 2 minutes. Hug everyone. That's all God is asking. And that seals your family. But now comes something equally powerful. The second simple thing every Adventist needs to do to seal their family is, completely disconnect from the secular world, TV, cell phones, work, social media, news. And this is the one that resists the most, but it is also the most powerful. Ellen White had a devastating vision about this. She saw 2 Adventist homes on the Sabbath. Home 1, the family went to church in the morning. They returned in the afternoon. They turned on the TV, just for a little while. They checked WhatsApp, just for important messages. Children on YouTube, just Christian videos. Result, angels left the house. God's presence withdrew. The Sabbath became ordinary. The family was not sealed. House 2, family turned everything off. 24 hours without screens. No news. No world. Result, angels stayed. God's presence intensified. The Sabbath became heaven on earth. The family was sealed. Ellen White wrote something strong about this. The Sabbath should not be spent in useless reading or conversation. We should not allow our minds to be occupied even with things of a secular nature. Testimonies for the Church, Volume 6, Chapter 12, page 357. But here's what made Ellen White cry with relief. She saw that when families really disconnected from the world, something supernatural happened. Children who complained, "It's boring without my phone," at first, after a few hours were talking, laughing, and connecting with their parents in a way that didn't happen during the week. Couples who barely spoke to each other during the week, were suddenly having deep conversations, remembering why they got married. Let me show you what happens when you disconnect from the world on Saturday. 1. Your mind truly rests. Ellen White saw that the human brain does not rest while consuming digital content, even if it is Christian. The mind needs rest. God desires His holy day to be observed as a day of mental rest. Testimonies for the Church, Volume 2, Chapter 8, page 583. When you turn everything off, your brain finally stops. And God can speak. 2. Your family reconnects. Here's the hard truth: during the week, you live in the same house but you don't know each other. Dad comes home tired and goes to his cell phone. Mom is stressed and goes to the TV. Children are isolated and go to video games. But when you turn everything off on Saturday, you are forced to look at each other. To talk. To be present. And Ellen White saw that it is at this moment that families are sealed. Because the seal does not come only from doctrine. It comes from love. From connection. Love should be the principle of action. Too often family members are separated. On the Sabbath this should change. The Adventist Home, Chapter 53, page 522. 3. The world loses power over you. Do you know why it's so hard to turn off your cell phone? Because the world has created dependency. But Ellen White saw that families who practiced 24 hours without the world every Saturday, developed a powerful spiritual freedom. They were no longer slaves to digital dopamine. They were free. We must choose what is best. We must not allow our time to be absorbed by things of lesser importance. Testimonies for the Church, Volume 6, Chapter 12, page 358. So here is what you need to do next Saturday. Step 1. Create a Sabbath box. Friday before sunset, all cell phones, tablets, and controllers go into the box. Seal it with tape, seriously. Put it out of reach, cupboard, closet. Only open it on Saturday after sunset. Step 2. Physically disconnect. Turn off the Wi-Fi router, not just your cell phone. Cover the TV with a sheet, visual aid. Place books, Bibles, board games where the TV was. Step 3. Prepare alternatives, before Saturday. For children. Missionary books, Bible stories. Christian board games. Drawing materials, to draw Bible stories. For adults. Books by Ellen White. Missionary magazines. Spiritual journal to write in. Step 4. Resist the initial resistance. The first 2 to 3 hours will be difficult. Children will complain. You will miss your cell phone. But Ellen White saw that families who resist, after a few hours experience a supernatural peace. After you completely disconnect, God's presence becomes palpable. And here is the promise that made Ellen White weep. Those who thus sanctify the Lord's Sabbath receive a blessing. The peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, fills the heart. Testimonies for the Church, Volume 6, Chapter 12, page 362. Do you want that peace? Do you want your children free from digital slavery? Then be radical. Turn everything off. 24 hours. 1 day a week. This seals your family. Because when the mark of the beast comes, when they demand that you choose between God and the world, you will have already practiced choosing God 52 times a year. Every Sabbath. Every shutdown. Every choice. And that becomes your identity. Your seal. But now comes the third thing, and it's beautiful. The third simple thing every Adventist needs to do to seal their family is, study God's Word together, not just read, but study, discuss, apply. And that is what transforms minds. Ellen White had a vision about 2 generations of Adventists in times of distress. Generation 1, they grew up going to church every Sabbath. They listened to sermons. But at home, they never studied the Bible as a family. When persecution came, they forgot what they had heard. They had no foundation. They fell. Generation 2, they also went to church. But at home, every Sabbath, they studied the Bible as a family. Father and mother taught their children. When persecution came, the Word was engraved on their hearts. They resisted until the end. Ellen White wrote with prophetic urgency. There can be no more fatal negligence than to neglect the hour of family prayer. Parents, make the Sabbath a delight, so that your children will hold it in high esteem. The Adventist Home, Chapter 44, page 318. But here's what made Ellen White cry with relief. She saw that this study does not have to be academic. It does not have to be theologically profound. It does not have to last for hours. It can be simple. 30 to 45 minutes. With child-friendly language. With questions and answers. What matters is not the quantity. It is the consistency. It is engraving the Word in the hearts of your children. Let me show you what happens when you study the Bible as a family on Saturday. 1. your children develop their own convictions. Here is the critical difference. Children who only hear it in church equals borrowed faith, from parents, pastor. Children who study at home with their parents equals their own faith. Ellen White saw this. It is of the utmost importance that young people be taught the truths of the Bible. They should learn to investigate the scriptures for themselves. Counsels to Parents, Teachers, and Students, Chapter 10, page 108. When your child opens the Bible with you, when he reads the verse, when he asks the question, when you answer, it becomes theirs. It is no longer what the pastor said. It is what I learned from my father/mother. 2. You pass on spiritual heritage. Ellen White saw something beautiful. Families who studied the Bible together on Saturday created a spiritual chain that passed from generation to generation. Children who grew up studying with their parents, when they grew up, did the same with their children. Parents should educate their children with patience and kindness. They should remember that their children are the youngest members of God's family. The Adventist Home, Chapter 42, page 305. 3. Your family becomes one in doctrine. Do you know why many Adventist families split up? Because each one has a different interpretation. But when you study together every Sabbath, you build a unified family theology. When deception comes, you discern together. Because you have already trained yourselves. So here's what you need to do next Sabbath. Step 1, choose a specific, not random, topic. Suggested themes for Saturdays. Saturday 1, the Sanctuary, study Daniel 8. Saturday 2, the Second Coming, Matthew 24. Saturday 3, the Seal of God, Revelation 7. Saturday 4, the Commandments, Exodus 20. Step 2, use a simple study method. Reading, 5 to 10 minutes. Each person reads 2 to 3 verses aloud. Explanation, 10 to 15 minutes. Father/mother explains in simple language. Questions, 5 to 10 minutes. Children ask questions. Parents answer. Application, 5 to 10 minutes. How does this apply to our lives today? Memorization, 5 minutes. Choose one verse to memorize as a family. Step 3, use Adventist resources. Sabbath School Lesson, study as a family before Sabbath. Ellen White books on the topic. Andrew's Study Bible. Adventist Bible Commentary, if available. Step 4, make it interactive for children. Young children, ages 3 to 7, draw the Bible story as you read it. Middle children, ages 8 to 12, they read the verses and explain them in their own words. Teenagers, 13 plus, they lead the study, parents complement. Ellen White was clear about this. Parents, employ a portion of the Sabbath in teaching your children the Word of God. Devote special time to instruction that will make the hearts of the young tender and impressionable. Counsels on Health, Chapter 6, page 387. And here is the promise that made Ellen White weep with relief. Families who devote the Sabbath to the study of the Word, engrave that Word so deeply in the hearts of their children that when everything else around them falls apart, that Word will remain firm. Do you want your children to have the Word engraved on their hearts? Then start today. Choose a theme. Set aside 30 minutes next Saturday. Open the Bible. Read together. Discuss. Apply. This seals your family. Because when the final test comes, the Word you have planted will spring up as unshakable conviction. But now comes the most powerful thing of all. The fourth simple thing every Adventist needs to do to seal their family is, praise and worship God together, with songs, with instruments, with your heart. And this is the most powerful. It is the one that made Ellen White cry the most. Ellen White had a vision of heaven. And she saw something that shocked her deeply. She saw Adventist families who had just arrived in heaven. And all these families had one thing in common. On earth, they sang together on the Sabbath. But here's what made her cry with emotion. When these families began to sing in heaven, God approached. Jesus smiled. Angels joined in the singing. Why? Because those voices were already in harmony from earth. That worship was already pure. That praise was already sincere. They weren't learning to praise in heaven. They already praised on earth. Every Saturday. As a family. Ellen White wrote with overflowing emotion. Singing is one of the most effective ways to impress the heart with spiritual truth. Singing praises is part of worshiping God. Testimonies for the Church, Volume 4, Chapter 6, page 71. But here's what will make you cry too. Ellen White saw families in times of distress. Hidden. Fleeing. Hungry. Afraid. And do you know what kept them strong? They sang. Softly. Whispered. But they sang. The same hymns they had sung as a family every Sabbath for years, were now their strength. Their hope. Their visible seal. Let me show you what happens spiritually when you worship as a family on the Sabbath. God's presence manifests itself in a tangible way. This is not a metaphor. Ellen White literally saw it. When genuine praise rises from sincere hearts, the glory of God descends upon that family. Angels join in the singing. The Adventist Home, Chapter 53, page 523. Have you ever felt God's presence? Really felt it? Families who worship together on Sabbath feel it. It's not manufactured emotion. It's real manifestation. Emotional barriers fall. Here's something powerful, many families live with emotional walls. Unresolved hurts. Coldness. Distance. But Ellen White saw that when families sing together, something breaks. The proud father who never cries. Cries during the hymn. The hurt mother who holds a grudge. Forgives during worship. The rebellious son who resists. Softens during praise. Why? Because genuine praise breaks spiritual strongholds. Sing praises to God, sing praises. The power of song is wonderful. In view of the conversion of the soul, it is one of the most effective instruments. Evangelism, Chapter 21, page 500. Your family develops heavenly identity. Ellen White saw something profound. Families who worship together on earth are already practicing for heaven. When they get there, they won't be strangers to heavenly worship. They will feel at home. Because they already did it every Sabbath here. Music should have beauty, emotion, and power. Let voices be raised in songs of praise and devotion. Messages to Young People, Chapter 28, page 287. So here's what you need to do next Saturday. Step 1. Create a fixed, praise time on Saturday. Suggestion: Saturday afternoon, after lunch, before sunset, duration, 30 to 45 minutes. Location, living room, backyard, wherever the family can fit. Step 2. Simple structure for the moment of praise. Open with prayer, 2 minutes. Ask the Holy Spirit to manifest Himself. Consecrate that moment to God. Well-known songs, 15 to 20 minutes. Adventist hymnal, hymns that the whole family knows. Each member chooses one hymn. Sing without shame, with your heart. Brief testimonies, 10 minutes. Each person shares one blessing from the week. You can cry, you can laugh, it can be simple. Final song, 5 minutes. A powerful hymn that the whole family loves. Sing holding hands. In a circle. Prayer of gratitude, 3 minutes. Give thanks for God's presence. Give thanks for your family. Step 3, use instruments if you have them, but it's not mandatory. Guitar, keyboard, flute equals great. But if you don't have instruments, a cappella is beautiful. Ellen White saw that God prefers a sincere voice without instruments to instruments without heart. Step 4, don't be ashamed. Most families do not worship together because they are ashamed. My voice is ugly. I don't know how to play. My children will laugh. But Ellen White was direct. God does not require artistic melody. What He desires is that the heart be filled with love and gratitude. The Adventist Home, Chapter 53, page 524. So sing. Even if you're out of tune. Even if your voice is shaky. Even if it's just you and your 3-year-old. God hears. Angels join in. And your family is being sealed. Step 5, create a family hymnal. Choose 10 to 15 hymns that the whole family loves. Write them down in a notebook. These will be our family hymns. Sing them every Saturday, but you can vary them. And here is the most beautiful promise that Ellen White saw. I saw families singing together on the Sabbath. Years later, when persecution came and they were separated, each one, alone in their prison or hiding place, sang the same hymns. And although physically separated, they were united spiritually by praise. And all of them endured to the end. Do you understand the power of this? When you sing with your family on the Sabbath, you are creating a spiritual language that no persecution can break. When your child is alone in prison for keeping the Sabbath, he will sing the hymn you sang together. And that hymn will bring God's presence. It will bring strength. It will bring the seal. Ellen White cried with relief because she saw that this is simple. Any family can do it. You don't need talent. You don't need a beautiful voice. You just need sincerity. And when you praise with sincerity, God comes down. And His glory seals your family. But now, before I continue, I need to talk to you about something. Wait a minute, before I reveal the 5th thing, which is equally powerful, I need to talk to you. If what you just heard is touching your heart, if you realize that your family needs these 7 simple things, then do the following now. Give this video a like. Why? Because this video needs to reach thousands of Adventist families who are missing the opportunity to seal their homes. Your like makes YouTube push this message. Subscribe to the channel and activate the bell. Why? Because I post prophetic truths that bring practical hope. And YouTube can limit that reach. By activating the bell, you ensure that you will receive every message that God gives me to share. And leave a comment now saying, my next Sabbath will be different. This isn't just for me, it's a declaration of faith. When you write, you are making a commitment. And God honors commitments. And if you want to financially support this prophetic ministry, send a super chat. Every dollar is used to bring hope and truth to more families. Now, here comes the 5th thing. And this one will show you how the Sabbath can be practical and not just spiritual. Pay close attention. The 5th simple thing that every Adventist needs to do to seal their family is, practice acts of kindness and service, do good, visit the sick, help the needy on the Sabbath. And this is the most surprising one. Because many think that the Sabbath is just for resting at home. Ellen White had a vision about the true purpose of the Sabbath. And she saw something that changed everything. She saw Jesus on the Sabbath. And do you know what He was doing? He was healing. He was setting free. He was serving. And she saw that Adventists who kept the Sabbath by resting selfishly did not have the seal. But Adventists who kept the Sabbath by serving others shone with the glory of God. Ellen White wrote with prophetic clarity. The Sabbath was not given merely for physical benefit. We are to do good to others on that day. The Sabbath was made for man, to be a blessing to him. Testimonies for the Church, Volume 2, Chapter 32, page 703. But here's what made Ellen White cry with relief. She saw that this service does not have to be grand. It does not have to be international missionary work. It does not have to be public preaching. It can be simple. Visiting a sick neighbor. Bringing lunch to an elderly person. Calling someone who is lonely. What matters is not the size of the act. It is the intention. It is showing the love of Christ. Let me show you what happens when your family serves together on the Sabbath. Your children learn practical compassion. Here is the difference. A child who only hears about love equals empty theory. A child who practices love with his parents on Saturday equals real Christianity. Ellen White saw this. Parents, take your children with you to visit the sick and help the poor. Make them your co-workers, and their youth will be employed in profitable ways. The Adventist Home, Chapter 42, page 304. When you take your 8-year-old child to visit a widow, when he sees you serving, when he helps, it leaves a lasting impression. He learns, Saturday is a day to love others as Jesus loved. Your family literally imitates Jesus. Jesus said, the Sabbath was made for man, Mark 2 verse 27. And what did he do on the Sabbath? He served. Ellen White saw that families who served together on the Sabbath were imitating Christ in the most literal way possible. Christ gave us an example of how the Sabbath should be kept. He devoted the Sabbath to works of mercy. The Desire of Ages, Chapter 29, page 207. The seal becomes visible through actions. Here is something profound. God's seal is not only internal. It manifests itself in actions. And Ellen White saw that sealed families were recognized by one thing: they served. So here is what you need to do next Saturday. Step 1. Choose one person or family to serve. Simple options. An elderly neighbor who lives alone. A sick church member. A needy family in the community. Someone in the hospital. Step 2. Do something practical, involve the whole family. Adaptable ideas. Bring a prepared meal, kids can help pack it. Pay a 30-minute visit, teens can chat, kids can draw cards. Call 3 to 5 people who live alone, each family member calls one. Offer practical help, mow the lawn, clean the yard. Step 3. Don't preach, just love. Ellen White was clear: your words of kindness, your acts of charity, your tears of sympathy will make the path easier for the afflicted. Testimonies for the Church, Volume 2, Chapter 32, page 704. You don't need to preach. You need to show love. Step 4. Talk to your children afterwards. On the way back, ask: how did you feel helping? How do you think Jesus feels when we serve like this? Who else can we help next Saturday? This connects service with spiritual purpose. And here is the promise that Ellen White saw. Families who devote part of the Sabbath to selfless service receive a special blessing. Angels accompany these families. And God's seal is confirmed through love manifested in actions. Do you want this blessing? Do you want your children to see real Christianity? Then next Saturday, after lunch, get dressed and go out to serve someone. It doesn't have to be long. 30 to 60 minutes. One visit. One act. One love. This seals your family. Because the seal is not just correct doctrine. It is love in action. But now comes something equally beautiful. The sixth simple thing every Adventist needs to do to seal their family is, have deep fellowship, really talk, connect emotionally, be present. And this is the most neglected. Because families do everything right religiously, but they don't know each other. Ellen White had a devastating vision about this. She saw Adventist families in times of distress that fell apart. Why? Not because of a lack of doctrine, but because of a lack of real love, of genuine connection. They lived in the same house, but they were emotionally strangers. And when the pressure came, when everything fell apart, there was no bond strong enough to keep them together. Ellen White wrote urgently about this. Too often family members are separated. Each has his own pleasure. But God desires unity in the home. The Adventist Home, Chapter 18, page 195. But here's what made Ellen White cry with relief. She saw families who used the Sabbath to reconnect. To have real conversations. To look each other in the eye. To listen to each other. And these families, when persecution came, remained united. Because the bonds were deep. Let me show you what happens when you cultivate deep fellowship on the Sabbath. You discover who your children really are. During the week, rush, school, work, tiredness. Superficial conversations, how was school? Fine. But on the Sabbath, when you stop, when you turn everything off, when you have time. You can ask, son, what have you been dreaming about lately? What makes you happy? What worries you? And Ellen White saw that parents who did this every Saturday, knew their children deeply. And because they knew them, they could guide them spiritually. Parents, be companions to your children. Take an interest in their interests. Take time to talk with them, chapter 19, page 206. Your marriage will be strengthened. Here's the hard truth, most Adventist marriages are surviving, not thriving. Why? Because husbands and wives don't really talk to each other. They just run the household. But Ellen White saw that couples who devoted part of the Sabbath to connecting, had ironclad marriages. Husband and wife should unite in close companionship. Love should be the principle of action. The Adventist Home, Chapter 18, page 198. You create eternal memories. Your children will not remember the sermons they heard in church. But they will remember talking with you on Saturday afternoon. Laughing together. Sharing dreams and fears. And those memories create identity. My family is united. We are special. So here's what you need to do next Saturday. Step 1. Set aside 1 to 2 hours for Saturday talk. Ideal time, afternoon, after lunch or church. Location, living room, backyard, porch, wherever you can sit comfortably. Rule, no cell phones. No distractions. Step 2. Use deep questions, not superficial ones. For children, adapt to age. If you could spend a day with Jesus, what would you ask him? What was the coolest thing that happened this week? Is there anything that is making you sad or afraid? For teenagers. How do you see your future in 5 years? What do you find most difficult about being an Adventist at your age? How can we help you grow spiritually? For your spouse, when the children are asleep/busy. How are you really? Not just fine, but truly. What can I do to better support you? What is your biggest dream for our family? Step 3. Listen more than you speak. Ellen White saw that parents who listened won their children's hearts. Parents who only preached, lost. Talk with them, children, not overwhelming them with long speeches. Let them ask questions. The Adventist Home, Chapter 19, page 207. Step 4, practice verbal affirmation. Every Saturday, say something specific and positive to each member. Son, this week I noticed how patient you were with your sister. That made me proud. Honey, thank you for working so hard for this family. I admire you. Daughter, I saw how you helped that friend at school. Jesus is in you. Ellen White was clear, a word of encouragement, an act of kindness, would ward off many temptations. The Adventist Home, Chapter 23, page 232. And here is the promise she saw. Families in which genuine love reigns and is expressed in words, looks, and deeds are families that angels delight to visit. And when the final distress comes, these bonds of love will be stronger than death. Do you understand? Fellowship is not a luxury. It is a spiritual necessity. When your family is being persecuted, when they are physically separated, when each one is alone, what will keep them strong will be the memory of those Saturdays. Of the conversations. Of the laughter. Of the love you cultivated. So use the Sabbath for that. Talk. Listen. Affirm. Love. This seals your family. Because the seal is not just knowledge. It is relationship. But now comes the last thing, and it is the most beautiful of all. The seventh and last simple thing that every Adventist needs to do to seal their family is, end the Sabbath with a service of thanksgiving and consecration, at sunset on Saturday. And this is the most neglected. But Ellen White saw that it is critical. Ellen White had a vision about two families. Family 1, they welcomed the Sabbath with a service on Friday. But when the Sabbath ended, they simply turned on the TV and went back to normal mode, as if nothing had happened. Result, the seal that had been forming during the 24 hours disappeared. Angelic protection diminished. The Sabbath became ordinary. Family 2, they welcomed the Sabbath with worship. And at sunset on Saturday, they held another worship service. A closing service. A service of gratitude. A service of consecration. Result, the seal was confirmed. Angelic protection intensified. The power of the Sabbath accompanied them throughout the entire week. Ellen White wrote something powerful about this. At sunset, let the voices of the family rise in song of praise and prayer. Ask God to extend His protection during the coming week. Testimonies for the Church, Volume 7, Chapter 5, page 46. But here's what made Ellen White cry with relief. She saw that this closing service does not have to be long. 10 to 15 minutes. Simple. But with heart. And that simple moment made all the difference between families that were sealed, and families that were not. Let me show you what happens when you close the Sabbath correctly. 1. You consolidate the blessings you have received. Think of it this way, the Sabbath is like a spiritual battery that charges your family. If you simply turn it off without closing, it's like unplugging the charger before it's fully charged. You lose part of the charge. But when you close with gratitude and prayer, you seal that spiritual charge within your family. Ellen White saw this literally. The closing service of the Sabbath closes, so to speak, the door of the secular week and opens the door of the next week with divine blessing. The Adventist Home, Chapter 53, page 520. 2. Your children learn gratitude. Here's something profound. Children who only receive blessings but never give thanks, develop ingratitude. But children who every Sabbath stop at the end of the day to list their blessings and give thanks, develop a grateful heart. And Ellen White saw that in times of distress, grateful people endured. Ungrateful people fell. We must cultivate gratitude. We must contemplate and consider God's mercy and love. Testimonies for the Church, Volume 5, Chapter 23, page 318. 3. You consecrate the week ahead. The closing service does not only look back, gratitude. It looks forward, consecration. Ellen White saw families praying at the end of the Sabbath, "Lord, may the strength of this holy day accompany us throughout the week." And these families faced the week with power. With courage. With peace. Because the Sabbath was not an isolated day. It was the source of strength for the other 6 days. So here's what you need to do next Saturday, at sunset. Step 1, notify the family, 15 minutes before sunset. In 15 minutes we will close the Sabbath. Let's gather together. This creates expectation. It prepares the heart. Step 2, simple structure for the closing service, 10 to 15 minutes. Gathering, all together, in a circle if possible. Sharing gratitude, 5 to 7 minutes, each person responds, "What was the best part of the Sabbath for you?" It can be something big or small. It can be, "The food was delicious," or, "I felt God's presence." Everything is valid. Song of gratitude, 3 minutes, a hymn of praise that the whole family loves. Suggestions. How great thou art. Give glory to God. I am happy with Jesus. Closing prayer, 3 to 5 minutes, father or mother prays in thanksgiving. For the Sabbath that has passed. For God's presence in the last 24 hours. For the blessings received. And asking. For protection during the week. That the strength of the Sabbath accompany them. That next Sabbath comes soon. Family hug, 1 minute, everyone hugs each other. You can say, "May we have a blessed week." Step 3, smooth transition, not abrupt. After the service, do not immediately turn on the TV or cell phone. Allow for another 10 to 15 minutes of transition time. Talk about the coming week. Finish tidying up the house together. Prepare things for Monday, clothes, backpacks. Ellen White was clear, the transition from Sabbath to weekdays should be gradual, not abrupt. The Adventist Home, Chapter 53, page 521. Step 4, create a specific family tradition. Something that only your family does at the end of the Sabbath. Light a candle and each person blows it out when they pray. Hold a Bible in the center and everyone places their hand on it. Always sing one specific verse. Make a statement together, "The Sabbath is over, but God is still with us." This creates memory. It creates identity. And here is the most beautiful promise Ellen White saw. I saw families closing the Sabbath with gratitude and consecration. And I saw that these families entered the week with visible angelic protection. Angels walked with them Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Until the next Sabbath. And when the final persecution came, these families had supernatural strength. The seal was complete. Do you understand the power of this? The opening service begins the seal. The 24 hours of the Sabbath build the seal. The closing service confirms the seal. And when you do this every Sabbath, 4 months, 4 years, the seal becomes permanent. Unshakable. Eternal. Ellen White cried with relief because she saw that ordinary families doing these 7 simple things were being sealed for eternity. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be extraordinary. You just need to be faithful. Consistent. Sincere. And God does the rest. So that's it. Now you know the 7 simple things that Ellen White saw in vision and that will seal your family forever. Welcome the Sabbath with an opening worship service. Completely disconnect from the secular world. Study the Word as a family. Praise and worship together. Practice acts of kindness and service. Have deep fellowship. Close with gratitude and consecration. The question remains, what will you do with this information? Will you watch this video, give it a like, and forget about it until Friday? Or will you start next Saturday? Because I guarantee you one thing, when the Sunday decree comes, when your family can no longer buy or sell, when you are fleeing together. What will matter is, did you practice these 7 things? Did your family practice them? Is the seal complete? Ellen White saw the end of this story. She saw families who practiced these 7 simple things entering the kingdom together. Fathers, mothers, children, all united. All sealed. All saved. And she wrote with tears of joy. The Sabbath will be the final test. But those who have faithfully kept it, who have made it a delight, who have used it to seal their families, they will not fail. The seal of God will shine on their foreheads. Testimonies for the Church, Volume 6, Chapter 12, page 352. Then share this video now with your spouse. You need to watch it together. Your older children. Your Adventist parents and siblings. That friend from church whose family is divided. The church WhatsApp groups. This video needs to reach every Adventist family. Because time is short. If you haven't subscribed yet, subscribe now and activate the bell. Because I post prophetic truths that bring practical hope for the last days. Leave a comment saying, "Our family will be sealed." And if you want to financially support this ministry, send a super chat. Every penny is invested in bringing hope to more homes. Before you leave, I want to pray for you and your family. See you in the next video. And remember, time is short. Jesus is coming back. And the Sabbath is the tool God has given you to seal your family. Use it well. Use it with love. Use it with faithfulness. May God bless your family. May God's seal shine on you.